Hello and welcome to this episode of Own the Journey, where we get the opportunity to speak with incredible business leaders from around the world and share their wisdom. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Mr. Josh Sullivan of Pride Design. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So for those that don't know your history and what you do, tell us just a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so Fried is a brand design and illustration company located here in Springfield, but we are actually more or less kind of like internationally based. So we have, there's 6 of us total. 4 of us are here. We have other people in the Northeast. We have people in South America that all work together. I have always worked in the advertising design industry. I worked as a senior art director for several agencies over the years. And then actually coming up here on just about 5 years ago, I started Fried, which was kind of my effort to kind of do business in the type of work that I wanted to do with the people who I wanted to do it with, instead of kind of following somebody else's lead all the time. And I have a very entrepreneurial heart, and so I wanted to see if I had kind of the guts and what it took to take my style of work that I like and the people who I like working with and the types of things I'm interested in and kind of do that through an entrepreneurial lens. And
I love that.
More or less it stuck and it's worked. And so we've grown year over year, and now I get to do fun stuff like this. So
that's
great.
So good. Well, your brand is very unique. That's kind of your guys' specialty, is to do that. So tell us just a little bit about how you bring the creative elements into the business space, where it's hard to get noticed anywhere, especially in that space.
Well, I think whatever, I tell this to people all the time, and it's kind of like one of my hot take things that I like to say is like, marketing is easy. Like marketing is supposed to be easy. So what I mean by that is that, like, our specialty is really coming in and, of course, we have incredibly talented artists that work with us, but really our specialty is being able to come in and really dive really, 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 really deep on companies and figuring out exactly who their target demographic is from a precise standpoint, and then not just who they are, but what they're interested in. Those classic like user profiles that people build for their businesses. Where we kind of take a step further than that is we go really, really deep into not just the graphics to show those people are the things that they feel emotionally invested in whenever they respond to a brand, but also how to talk to those people, how to create values and systems and missions that are reflective of your business, but also reflective of your customer.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of what sets us apart in a lot of different ways. And I think that that's why a lot of people are drawn to working with us, is because our brand does that.
Yeah.
And we have kind of a track record of helping other brands figure out, how to look and sound and feel that's reflective of themselves, and that their customers are going to see themselves reflected in. That's when that symbiosis starts to work really well. And ultimately, in my belief and kind of one of our ethoses as a business, is that's when marketing really does become easy, right? Because now we know exactly who we are. We know exactly who we're talking to, who we're trying to talk to. Well, now we know exactly how we're supposed to sound to them, right? All of our employees can get behind that. Now we know exactly what we're supposed to show them from a visual standpoint. And now we know where they hang out, right? Where they absorb their information, where they get their news, where they absorb in their advertising or marketing messages. And so then we can go in, and from a business standpoint, one of the other strengths that we have is, okay, well, let's help you develop out a marketing budget, because you would be surprised on how many people you're like, okay, what's your budget? And they're like, well, wait, I don't know, how much does it cost? And so, we break it down so it becomes algebra, right? And whenever you're an art company, which we are, that's kind of like mind-boggling for a lot of people. They're like, well, I don't get it, but really that's what we mean by that whole marketing should be easy, is because once we do all that upfront work of developing out who you really are and how you want to sound and how you want to look and feel and all those kinds of things, we know where the people are. Now we just have to pay the money to get the messages in front of them, and then it's just math.
It's just math. Well, I love the what you're talking about in terms of identifying that target customer, because for years as an organization, we did the spray and pray. Like we didn't know who the target customer, we didn't know where they were spending their time. And so really you guys are getting deep so that you can understand what the customer is looking for and what's going to resonate with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my like favorite things is what like we'll do client questionnaires or these things where we like sit down with clients and we'll ask somebody like, okay, well, who's your target demographic, right? And the like at least one out of like 2 or 3, somebody says, well, everybody, right? And it's like, well, I know that you think that it's probably everybody, but it's not. Like, and maybe it is everybody, but there's going to be a lowest hanging fruit, and there's going to be a high value customer, and there's going to things that are going to be fundamentally, you know, path changing for your business if you decide to talk to these people versus those people. Or if it is everybody, let's at least break those down into manageable pieces so we can understand where to group marketing budgets together. Once it goes into the marketing department, my hands are out of it. So I tell people all the time, like I don't do marketing, I'm a brand guy. And so I really like to build that look, that feel, that message, and then hand it off to the math people after that.
That's amazing. So an international team, you said, how did that come about? How did you find that kind of talent?
Instagram, man, out of nowhere. Yeah. So we were growing at a pretty good clip, and I needed a new, like, really high-end illustrator. We were just doing a bunch of at the time we were doing a bunch of really like big, loud, expansive illustration work, everything from like skateboard decks to toys and album covers and brands that needed a lot of illustration and packaging. And so it's like, this is just, that process is it's just time intensive. You're drawing incredibly detailed illustrations time and time again. I was like, I gotta find somebody else. And so I just posted it on Instagram one day. Like, there was 4 of us, and I was like, hey, we need a new illustrator, now hiring. And we had a pretty good Instagram, like, social media following at the time, still do, much better now than it was. But like, out of the woodwork, we had people come from all over the country and all over the world. And one that stuck out was Gus, he lives in Brazil. And he took a bunch of our brand assets and like redid them and like his kind of style and stuff that he does. And he can do like, he could do something that's, he could draw you and it would be lifelike, or he could watercolor it, or he could do anything he wants to do. And so he used to be an aircraft designer for Boeing back in the day. And so like now he's an illustrator and he's my age. And so he just, he reached out on Instagram, took all of our brand assets, redid them in his style, and he was like, hey, I'd love to come work there. This looks like fun. And I was like, sold. Yeah, and so he's full-time with us. It's a little bit difficult because he's on, depending on when our time changes are, he's either 2 or 3 hours different from us. But so usually, like by the time I sign in the morning at 8 o'clock, he's already been working for the last 2 hours. And then, by 3 o'clock, he's kind of shuffling on for the rest of the day. But other than that, it's like having any other full-time remote employee. It just happens to be
international.
Yeah.
So how did you work through the dynamics of paying and doing all of those kind of things? Anything special that you needed to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's some hiccups and stuff with like taxes and just that kind of just normal junk that we have to do. He's also in Brazil, which has some pretty wild tax laws that you kind of have to jump hoops through. But it's all stuff that a good accountant can figure out for you pretty quick. So shout out Todd Carroll. But yeah, he helped us all out with that. And it's all been really, really smooth. I mean, there's some hiccups with having international employees. Some of the perks they don't necessarily get to participate in, right? Like we have 100% paid health insurance for all of our employees. Well, like he doesn't, he's in Brazil, he doesn't get to take advantage of that. So we just try and like benefit him out in different ways. You know what I mean? Of like, because I don't want everybody or anybody to ever feel like if they are international, they do live in a different part of the country or whatever. Like I said, we have other people in other parts, but I never want them to feel like they're getting left out of something, right? So how can we supplement it in some other way or make it fun? And
yeah, I love it.
And he, now that COVID's over, we've got visa stuff, so he's actually coming up and he'll stay here for a few weeks and work and stuff. And
nice.
We do like company retreats where everybody goes to one place and hangs out and stuff like that. So it's very important for us to keep everybody very, very, very involved and very close knit. There's only 6 of us, and I don't really have any interest in adding anybody else, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I like your life.
Yeah, I mean, we would like to get bigger from a I guess, a salary cap standpoint, you know, but from a growth standpoint of personnel or like footprint, just none of us want that. None of us need it, you know. We all want more money. We can go make more money because we can charge more, but at some point, everything's going to be fine, right? And we'll start other new little side projects or whatever we do. And but the group of people that we have is really good, and we'll, you know, I say that today, tomorrow we could wake up and be like, we need to add another 2-3 people, but and of course, you know, opportunities change your mind really quick with things, right? But I've also been humbled very quickly following opportunities for money like that, and I'd like to think that I've learned my lesson at this point. So
I can appreciate that. Well, I love the fact that you guys lean into the culture and you make those adaptations, and I mean that's what keeps the team high functioning, high efficiency, you know, tight knit, so that when somebody needs something, they can pick up the phone or reach out to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it can spin out of control so fast if you don't really take heart in making it the best reflection that it can be. I had another agency that I started a few years ago and grew it to like 16 people in 2 years, and by those 2 years I was like, you know, everything had spun so far that it wasn't a good reflection of me anymore, or what I wanted, or any of those things, and ended up selling the company, and it's doing great now. But I couldn't. There comes a mark there where like you have to try and make it all seamless for everybody who's there, including yourself. And so if not, then you know it's just not worth it.
Yeah, it can backfire.
Yeah,
absolutely can. Yeah. So I know that obviously you guys work on a large scale international workforce, but you're also big into local.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think it's we do work for massive clients that we really have no business working for, but somehow we get these little connections, and we've been able to do that. That work for us is just as much fun usually as like John's pizza shop down the street, because they need it, and we can see a direct, you know, whenever we do work for these big clients, like we never see that, like they launch it and it looks cool and that's great, and we can put it on Instagram and say like, look, we worked for these people, but you never really see like how it affects their livelihood. But whenever you I was actually thinking about this earlier today because we were just listening to Amanda talk a little bit, and she was talking about like what are those stadium phrases, you know, or those stadium speeches. And I was thinking back to myself and like of local, like if we just looked at local restaurants, right? Restaurants typically go out of business at like a 90% clip within the first 5 years, right? Probably maybe more than that.
Yeah, I would say so.
Out of all of the restaurants that we've branded in Springfield, Missouri in the last 5 years, none of them have gone out of business.
Wow.
And so now the restaurants are obviously very good, and the bars, but I'd like to think that maybe we played some small part in that, right? And so those things like make us feel really good, you know, of knowing that a place is going to make more money, or that their livelihood is going to be better off on a local standpoint, because we had something to do with it. And the work is just as much fun. We're still getting to have fun. We don't work with people we don't like anyways. So
that's a gift too.
Yeah. And so, so, you know, if you do that, then it doesn't make any difference to me if it's, you know, if it's spots for Kellogg's, or if it's, you know, Mike's Taco Shop, because, you know, the work is still fun. You're still getting to do, I mean, at the base level, we get to draw pictures for people and they pay us for them. So it's not like it's, you know, terrible work. And so it's pretty great. And whenever you see it directly benefit somebody like that on a local scale for your friends, or, you know, to people in the community, it feels really good.
It's special. Yeah, it's really good. So as we wrap up, share with us some of the best advice that you've ever received.
I'm going to save this one for later, but I'll drop it here now too. The best advice that I've ever received was, you can't have the most effective and perfect version of your business until you, as an entrepreneur, are the most perfect or effective version of yourself. you have to be the best version of yourself that you can be before your business can ever be the best version of itself. And I think that isn't just in business. I think that that's as a parent or as a husband, as a spouse, or and I think honestly the same thing could be said for communities at large. I don't think that Springfield businesses will ever be the best that they could be without Springfield communities being the best that they can be, and all of those things are intertwined in that way. And so I think that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
I love it. Well, hey, thank you for taking a couple of minutes today. We appreciate it. Yeah.